Dr. Taman Park pressed his hands against the cold glass of the observation window. His breath made small fog circles that disappeared as quickly as they formed. Beyond the glass, on a surgical table designed for humans, lay something that definitely was not human. The medical station orbited Ganymede, one of Jupiter's moons. Taman had worked here for 3 years, treating miners, station workers, and the occasional tourist who got sick in low gravity. He had never expected to see an alien on his table. Nobody had. First contact with alien species happened only 8 months ago, and the universe was still getting used to the idea that humans existed. The creature on the table looked almost human if you did not look too closely. It had 2 arms, 2 legs, a head, and a body. But that was where normal ended. Its skin was black and shiny like volcanic glass. Under the skin, Taman could see veins that glowed with soft blue light. The veins moved in patterns, like rivers of stars flowing through a dark landscape. "They say it is dead," said Hyunwoo, standing beside Taemin. Hyunwoo worked as a liaison officer between Earth's government and the aliens. He wore a neat gray suit that looked odd in the medical station's harsh white lights. "The Velcrim want you to cut it open and find out what killed it." Taemin did not take his eyes off the creature. "The Velcrim are wrong, Dr. Park. The scanners show no brain activity, no heartbeat, no breathing. By every definition we have, this thing is dead." "Look at the monitors," Taemin said, pointing to the screens above the observation window. Numbers scrolled past, showing temperature readings, electromagnetic scans, and chemical analysis. "The body temperature is changing, not dropping like a corpse should, changing, up and down, in a pattern. And see those electromagnetic readings? They pulse every 43 seconds. Dead things do not pulse." Hyunwoo frowned at the screens. He was a diplomat, not a doctor. The numbers probably meant nothing to him. "The Velcrim have been very clear. This is one of their people. It died 3 days ago from an unknown illness. They need to know what killed it, so they can protect others from the same disease." Quote, "Then they can wait until I am sure it is actually dead." The door to the observation room slid open. 3 aliens entered. They were Velcrim, members of the species that had made first contact with humanity. They looked like giant insects made of crystal. Their bodies reflected light in strange ways, making them hard to look at directly. The tallest one clicked its mouthparts together. A small device on its chest translated the sounds into Korean. "Dr. Park, we have been patient. But time is important. If this disease spreads, many will die. You must begin the autopsy now." Taemin turned to face the alien. His heart beat fast, but he kept his voice calm. "I will not cut into something that might be alive. In human medicine, we have a rule. First, do no harm. I follow that rule." The Velcrim's crystal body flashed with orange light. The translator called it Veshkor. "Your instruments do not understand our biology. What you see as life signs are just confused readings. The specimen is dead. We are certain. I am not certain. And until I am, the answer is no." Veshkor leaned closer. Despite having no face that Taemin could read, the alien somehow managed to look threatening. "Your government wants good relations with the Velcrim Consortium. We are humanity's first allies among the stars. Do you want to be the human who ruins that relationship?" Hyunwoo touched Taemin's arm. "Doctor, maybe we should consider—" "No," Taemin said firmly. "I do not care about politics. I care about medicine. That thing might be alive, and I will not kill it just because someone tells me to." The Velcrim left after that. But Taemin knew the problem was not over. For the next 6 hours, messages came from Earth. First, from the hospital administration, asking him politely to cooperate. Then from the medical board, suggesting he was overreacting. Finally from the Earth Council itself, strongly recommending he follow the Velcrim's request for the sake of diplomatic relations. Taman ignored them all. Instead, he ran more tests. He brought in Jiwan, his best surgical nurse, to help. She had steady hands and a sharp mind that caught details others missed. "What do you see?" he asked her, showing her the scans. Jiwan studied the images carefully. She zoomed in on different sections, adjusted the contrast, and ran comparisons against their medical database. The internal structure is strange, nothing like human anatomy. But there are patterns here. This looks like it could be a circulatory system. And this might be a neural network. Exactly, a very alien neural network, but a network. I asked the computer to look for any kind of electrical activity, no matter how small. It found something. Faint, but there. Buried deep in what might be the creature's brain. Could it be residual charge, like static electricity in a dead body? Could be. Or it could be a living mind in some kind of deep sleep. They worked through the night, running every test Taman could think of. The Velcrim sent more messages. The pressure from Earth increased. Hyunwoo came back twice, looking more worried each time, but Taman refused to change his mind. At 11:47 station time, Taman sat alone in the observation room. Jiwan had gone to get coffee. Hyunwoo was dealing with another angry message from Earth. The station was quiet, except for the hum of life support systems and the occasional beep from the medical monitors. Taman stared at the alien on the table. He had been a doctor for 15 years. He had seen many people die. He knew what death looked like. And this thing, whatever it was, did not look dead to him. It looked like it was waiting. "What are you?" he whispered to the glass. That was when the creature's hand moved. Just a small movement. The fingers twitched, like someone trying to make a fist in their sleep. Taman jumped to his feet. He checked the monitors. The electromagnetic readings had spiked. The temperature was rising. And now, there was definitely neural activity. Not much, but unmistakable. He reached for the communication button to call Jiwan. But before his finger touched the button, a sound came from the speakers. The speakers were connected to the isolation chamber. They were there in case a patient needed to call for help. The sound was rough and dry, like wind blowing through a cave. It took Taman a moment to realize it was a voice. An alien voice, speaking through alien vocal core. The observation room filled with people within minutes. Jiwan arrived first. Coffee forgotten. Her eyes went wide. When Taman played back the recording, the alien's voice came through the speakers again, rough and strange but unmistakably saying his name. It spoke. "How is that possible?" Jiwan asked. Hyunwoo burst through the door next, followed by two Velcrim officials. Veshkor's crystal body seemed to dim, like a light turning down inside it. The second Velcrim was smaller, introduced by the translator as Ithran. "Impossible," Veshkor said. "The specimen was terminated 3 cycles ago. We watched it die." Taman played the recording again. The alien voice filled the room. "Tay. Min." Ithran made a sound like glass breaking. The translator struggled to render it into words. When it finally spoke, the translation came out halting. If it spoke, if it knows the human designation, then the protocol has activated." "What protocol?" Taman demanded. His patience was wearing thin. These aliens had lied to him, had pressured him, had tried to make him cut into a living being. Now they were talking about protocols. The two Velcrim turned to look at each other. Despite their alien nature, Taman could read something in their body language. They were afraid. Veshkor's translator was quiet for a long moment before it spoke. "Dr. Park, we were not completely honest with you. The being on your table is not just a citizen of our consortium. It is something much older, much more important. It is a witness." "A witness to what?" "To everything," Ithran said. "Witnesses are an ancient caste. They were created by a species called the Archivists. Long before the Velcrim existed, Their purpose is to watch civilizations and record what happens to them, especially when those civilizations are dying. The temperature in the observation room seemed to drop. Hyunwoo's face went pale. Are you saying this thing appears when species are about to go extinct? Yes, Veshkor said. And if it woke up, if it spoke, then it has identified a species approaching an extinction-level event. Taemin felt anger rise in his chest. You brought this thing to my medical station knowing what it was? You lied about it being dead? You wanted me to cut into it? Silence answered him. The kind of silence that confirmed everything. You were testing it, Jiwon said quietly. Hyunwoo stepped between Taemin and the Velcrim. His diplomatic training was showing. Park, if this being is truly alive and it knows your name, we need to understand why. Are you willing to try to communicate with it? Every part of Taemin wanted to refuse. Wanted to call security and have the Velcrim thrown off his station. Wanted to report them to Earth for lying and manipulation, but his oath as a doctor was stronger than his anger. If there was a living being in that room, a being that had called his name, he had a duty to try to help it. I will talk to it, Taemin said. But only with my team. Minimal staff. Full quarantine protocols. And if anything goes wrong, we evacuate immediately. The next 6 hours were spent preparing. Taemin brought in Minho, a linguistics specialist who worked on the station translating for the few aliens who visited. Minho was young but brilliant, with a gift for understanding patterns in communication. Together, they studied what little information the Velcrim had provided about the witnesses. It was not much. The beings were old. They appeared across the galaxy. They recorded the end of civilizations through some kind of biological memory storage. How they did it, the Velcrim either did not know or would not say. Jiwon monitored the creature's vital signs. Whatever had triggered when it spoke, Taemin's name continued to grow stronger. The bioluminescent veins under its skin began pulsing in complex patterns. The temperature fluctuations became more regular. The neural activity increased. It is waking up, Jiwon said. Whatever sleep it was in, it is coming out of it. When they finally entered the isolation chamber, Taemin felt his heart pound. He wore a full hazard suit. So did Jiwon and Minho. They did not know if the witness was dangerous or if it carried diseases that could harm humans. But they had to try. The witness lay on the table, still motionless except for the pulsing lights under its skin. Taemin approached slowly, keeping his hands where the creature could see them if it opened its eyes. Can you hear me? Taemin asked. My name is Dr. Taemin Park. You said my name. Do you know who I am? For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the witness's eyes opened. They were completely black, not dark brown or dark gray, but truly black, like looking into the emptiness of space itself. Dr. Taemin Park, the witness said. The translation software rendered its voice as almost human. But there was something ancient in the tone, something that had seen things humanity could not imagine. You refused to cut into me, when all others insisted I was dead. Why? Why? Taemin took another step closer. Because I take an oath to preserve life. I could not be certain you were not alive. So I refused to harm you. The witness made a sound. It took Taemin a moment to realize it might be laughing. Your species is younger than most of the dust in this star system, yet you have developed ethics that many ancient civilizations have forgotten. This is why I chose you. Chose me for what? The witness's hand lifted. The movement was slow and seemed to take great effort. It pointed past Taemin, toward the observation window where the Velcrim watched. To bear witness, it said, to their crime. Minho stepped forward, his tablet recording everything. What crime? What are you talking about? The witness's black eyes fixed on Minho, then moved to Jiwon, then back to Taemin. I am called Veran. That is the closest sound your vocal cords can make to my true name. I am a witness. I was created to observe and record. to watch species at critical moments in their existence, and to remember what happens when they make the choices that determine their future. What choice? Taman asked. The choice to let another species live, Veron said. Or the choice to destroy them in fear. Hatha. Hatha. In the observation room, Taman could see the Velcrim moving in agitation. Veshkor was speaking rapidly into a communication device. Ithran backed away from the window. I was assigned to the Velcrim Consortium 73 of your Earth years ago, Varen continued. I watched them discover faster than light travel. I watched them meet other species and form alliances. I watched them grow into a power among the stars. Veron paused. The lights under its skin pulsed faster, as if the memories were causing it pain. And I watched them find something they were never meant to find. A weapon. Not a weapon of war, but a weapon of inevitability. A device that prevents species from spreading too far across the galaxy. The archivists, my creators, built it as a safeguard, to stop any single species from dominating all others. What does this weapon do? Jiwan asked. Veron's black eyes seemed to look through them, seeing something far away. It sterilizes. It does not kill violently. It simply makes it impossible for a species to reproduce. One generation lives their full lives. But no children are born. And when that generation dies, the species ends. Forever. End quote. Taman felt sick. And the Velcrim found this weapon? Yes. They found it. They studied it. And then they did something I have never seen in all my centuries of observation. They reprogrammed it. They changed its target from themselves to another species. A species they feared would become too powerful, too dangerous to their dominance. What species? Minho asked. Though Taman already knew the answer, Veron turned its black eyes back to Taman. Humanity. They chose to destroy humanity. And they brought me here. Placed me in artificial death, hoping you would cut me open and prove that humans were as cruel as they claimed. If you had, I would have died. And my testimony would have died with me. The lights under Veran's skin flared brightly. But you did not. You refused. You insisted on certainty. You valued my life over their demands. You saved not only me, Dr. Park. You saved the possibility of saving your entire species. Taman's mind raced. The implications were staggering. Are you saying the Velcrim are trying to make humanity extinct? Not trying, Veron said softly. They have already done it. The weapon is active. It is traveling toward your solar system. Unless you stop it. In 6 months, every human being will become sterile. You will have one generation left. And then humanity will be nothing but a memory. One sum of the record, and one. The alarm in the observation room started blaring. Hyunwoo's voice came through the intercom, urgent and frightened. Taman. The Velcrim are breaching the quarantine doors. They are armed. We are out of time. Taman's training took over. 15 years of emergency medicine had taught him to act fast when seconds mattered. He looked at Veron, then at his team. G1, can Veron move? The nurse checked the witness's vital signs on her portable monitor. The readings are stronger now, but I do not know if the body can handle physical stress. We must try, Veron said, struggling to sit up. If the Velcrim take me back, they will ensure I truly die this time. And without my testimony, without the access codes I carry, humanity has no chance. Access codes? Minho asked. To shut down the weapon. I know how to stop it. But first, we must reach Earth. Taman helped Veron to its feet. The witness was tall. Taller than Taman by almost a full head. Its glass-like skin felt cold under Taman's gloved hands. Can you walk? I will learn again, Veron said. The sound of the Velcrim breaking through the quarantine doors grew louder. Taman tapped his communicator. Hyunwoo, we need a way out. Now. The emergency shuttle bay. Bay 7. But Taman, You need to know something. Earth Council is ordering station security to stand down. They do not want to start a war with the Velcrim over this. You are on your own. Taemin felt a flash of anger but pushed it down. He could be angry later. Right now, he needed to save his patient. Jiwan, you know the maintenance corridors? Better than anyone. Follow me. They moved out of the isolation chamber into the medical bay. The station was designed with multiple escape routes, a necessary feature when working with unknown diseases. Jiwan led them through a door marked for authorized personnel only. The maintenance corridors were narrow and dimly lit. Pipes and cables ran along the walls and ceiling. The air smelled like oil and recycled atmosphere. Behind them, Taemin heard the Velcrim enter the medical bay. They were shouting in their language. The translators rendered it as demands to surrender. Veron stumbled. Taemin caught the witness before it fell. Are you okay? I have not walked in many days. My body remembers, but slowly. Veron's black eyes looked at Taemin with something that might have been gratitude. You risk much for me. For a being you barely know. You are my patient now, Taemin said simply. I do not abandon my patients. They reached an intersection in the corridors. Jiwan checked her tablet, which showed a map of the station. Bay 7 is 2 levels down. We need to take the service elevator. The elevator was small and old. It groaned as they crowded inside. Minho kept looking back the way they came, expecting Velcrim soldiers to appear at any moment. The elevator descended slowly. Too slowly. When the doors finally opened on the shuttle bay level, they found someone waiting for them. A man in Earth Defense Force uniform stood with 5 Marines. He had gray hair, a scar down his left cheek, and eyes that had seen combat. Dr. Park? I am Captain Daeho. Ambassador Hyunwoo sent me. He thought you might need help. Captain, this is not authorized. You could face punishment for this. Daeho smiled, but there was no humor in it. Doctor, if what Hyunwoo told me is true, in 6 months, there will not be a military left to punish anyone. Besides, I did not spend 20 years protecting Earth just to let some crystal aliens decide humans do not deserve to exist. The Marines formed a protective circle around Taemin's group as they moved toward the shuttle. Shuttle Bay 7 was smaller than the main bays, used mostly for cargo and emergency evacuations. A sleek transport ship sat ready, its engines already warming up. How did you know we would need this? Taemin asked. Hyunwoo is more than just a diplomat, Daeho said. He knows how to read situations. He saw this coming an hour ago and called me. They were halfway to the shuttle when the bay doors exploded inward. Velcrim soldiers poured through, their weapons glowing with deadly energy. The Marines opened fire, providing cover as Taemin and his team ran for the shuttle. Taemin helped Varan up the ramp. The witness moved better now, its body remembering how to function. Jiwan and Minho followed. Captain Daeho and his Marines backed toward the shuttle, still firing at the Velcrim. Everyone on board, Daeho shouted. We are leaving now. The shuttle's engines roared to life. The ramp closed as the last Marine jumped aboard. Through the viewports, Taemin saw Velcrim soldiers running toward them. Plasma fire scorched the shuttle's hull. Daeho dropped into the pilot's seat and pulled back on the controls. The shuttle shot forward, out of the bay and into space. Behind them, 2 Velcrim interceptor ships launched in pursuit. Hold on, Daeho warned. This will be rough. What followed was the most terrifying experience of Taemin's life. Daeho flew the shuttle like it was a fighter craft, spinning and diving to avoid the plasma fire from the interceptors. They raced past the medical station, using its bulk as cover. Then, Daeho dove toward Jupiter itself. Are you insane? Minho shouted. Jupiter's radiation will kill us. The Velcrim ships have weaker shielding than ours, Daeho said calmly. They cannot follow us as deep into the radiation belts as we can go. He was right. The Velcrim interceptors tried to follow, but had to break off as the radiation levels spiked. Daiho guided the shuttle through Jupiter's deadly environment with the skill of someone who had done this before. Maybe many times. They emerged on the other side of Jupiter. The interceptors lost behind them, but the shuttle was damaged. One engine was failing. Warning lights blinked across the control panel. "We will make it to Mars," Daiho said. "Maybe not to Earth, but Mars will do." Jiwan was checking Varan's vital signs. Her face went pale. "Doctor, the stress of the escape has caused internal damage. I am seeing system failures. I do not know if Varan will survive the journey." Taman examined the witness carefully. The bioluminescent veins were flickering irregularly. Some had gone dark completely. "Varan, what is wrong? What is failing?" "Axon, my primary circulation node," Varan said weakly. "What you might call a heart, though it functions differently. The stasis damaged it. The stress of movement has made it worse. Without surgery, I will not reach Earth." Taman looked around the small shuttle. There was a basic medical kit, some tools, but nothing like what he would need for surgery. Certainly nothing designed for alien physiology. "We cannot do surgery here," Minho said. "We do not have the equipment. We do not even understand Varan's biology." "Then Varan will have to teach me," Taman said. He turned to the witness. "Can you guide me through your own surgery? Can you tell me what to do?" Varan's black eyes focused on Taman. "Your species' boldness continues to surprise me. Yes, Dr. Park. I can guide you. But you must understand something. What you learn today, you must teach others. Because humanity will need to understand biology beyond its own, if it is to survive what is coming." They cleared space in the shuttle's cargo area. Jiwan gathered every medical tool they had. Minho set up his tablet to record everything. The Marines helped create a sterile field as best they could in the cramped space. Taman sterilized his hands and his instruments. Then, he looked at Varan. "Tell me where to cut." For the next 8 hours, Taman performed surgery unlike any in human history. Varan guided him, explaining in simple terms how its biology worked. The circulation node was deep inside the body cavity. Reaching it meant cutting through layers of tissue that did not exist in humans. The witness's blood was not red but silver, with tiny lights that glowed and dimmed like stars. Inside, the organs were arranged in patterns that made no sense to human anatomy, but had their own alien logic. Jiwan assisted with steady hands despite the shuttle's turbulence. Every time Daiho had to maneuver around debris or correct their course, the surgical field shifted. But she adapted, holding instruments steady, anticipating what Taman needed before he asked. Minho recorded everything. He added notes, drew diagrams, and created a record that would be invaluable to future xenobiologists. The Marines took turns monitoring the door and checking the shuttle's systems. The circulation node looked like a crystal flower with silver fluid flowing through its petals. Part of it had cracked during the stasis. Taman had to remove the damaged section and seal the edges. Varan talked him through it, though its voice grew weaker with each passing hour. "There," Taman finally said, placing the last seal. "I think that should hold." They waited. Varan's vital signs on Jiwan's monitor were dangerously low. Then, slowly, they began to stabilize. The bioluminescent veins brightened. The flickering stopped. "You did it," G1 whispered. Varan's eyes opened. "You have a gift, Dr. Park. Not just skill, but the ability to understand patterns you have never seen before. The archivists would have valued you highly." "Save your strength," Taman said. "We still need to reach Earth and convince people to believe us." Daiho's voice came from the cockpit. "Doctor, we are approaching Mars orbit, and we have a problem. The Velcrim contacted Earth while we were running. They are calling us terrorists. They claim we kidnapped their specimen and stole their property. Earth's defense fleet is moving to intercept us." Through the viewport, Taman could see Mars growing larger, and around it, dozens of ships taking defensive positions. But he also saw something else. Civilian ships, cargo haulers, personal transports, mining vessels, even some old military craft that had been decommissioned. They were moving between the defense fleet and the shuttle. "What is happening?" Minho asked. Hyunwoo's voice crackled over the communication system. "I leaked everything to the public networks before the Velcrim locked down the station. Every testimony. Every piece of evidence. Dr. Park, half of Earth knows what you are carrying now, and they are not going to let their own military shoot you down." Taemin looked at Varan. The witness was watching the scene through the viewport. Its black eyes reflecting the lights of hundreds of human ships moving to protect them. "This is humanity," Taemin said. "We are chaotic. We are stubborn. And we really do not like being told we cannot exist." Varan made that sound that might have been laughter again. "Perhaps your species has a chance after all." The United Earth Assembly Hall was the largest meeting space humanity had ever built. It sat in neutral territory, on an artificial island in the Pacific Ocean, designed specifically so no single nation could claim ownership. Today, every seat was filled. Taemin stood at the central podium, feeling very small under the massive dome ceiling. Varan stood beside him, tall and still. The witness had recovered well over the past 3 days. Taemin had kept it under careful observation, making sure the emergency surgery held. Jiwon and Minho sat in the witness section, ready to provide their testimony. Captain Daeho was not present. The military had placed him under house arrest, investigating whether his actions constituted mutiny. But even the generals had to admit that without Daeho, Varan would never have reached Earth alive. Across the hall, the Velcrim delegation occupied an entire section. There were more of them now, not just Veshkor and Ithrin, but dozens of Velcrim officials, their crystal bodies reflecting the assembly lights in dizzying patterns. They looked confident. They had spent 3 days spreading their version of events through diplomatic channels. Secretary General Unji called the session to order. She was an old woman, in her 80s, but her voice was strong and clear. She had been elected because she had a reputation for being fair and impossible to intimidate. "We are here to determine the truth," Unji said. Dr. Taemin Park claims that the Velcrim Consortium has activated a weapon designed to sterilize humanity. The Velcrim claim that Dr. Park kidnapped their property and invented a story to justify his crimes. This assembly will hear all evidence before making any decisions. The Velcrim's lead diplomat, a being called Kreshtor, spoke first. It was larger than Veshkor, and its crystal body was a darker color. The creature beside Dr. Park belongs to the Velcrim Consortium. It is a biological specimen that we trusted to human care for medical analysis. Dr. Park violated quarantine protocols. He stole our property. He attacked our security forces. And now, he has created an elaborate lie to avoid punishment for his crimes. Murmurs ran through the assembly. Many governments were afraid. The Velcrim were humanity's first alien contact. Losing that relationship could mean isolation in a galaxy full of other species. Then Varan stood. When the witness moved, everyone fell silent. There was something about Varan's presence that commanded attention. Something ancient and important. "I am not property," Varan said. The translation software could not fully capture the weight in its voice. "I am not a specimen. I am a witness. Created by the archivists to observe the rise and fall of civilizations. I have seen 147 species reach for the stars. I have watched 73 of them destroy themselves through war. I have recorded the extinction of 24 species through environmental collapse. I have witnessed 31 species sterilize themselves through careless use of technology." The assembly hall was completely silent. Every eye, every camera, every recording device focused on Varan. But I have never, in all my centuries of observation, seen one species deliberately engineer the extinction of another out of pure competitive fear. Until now. Veron turned to look at the Velcrim section. The Velcrim Consortium has activated a device called the Limiter. It was designed by the archivists as a safeguard against galaxy-spanning empires. The Velcrim found it, studied it, and reprogrammed it to target humanity. They have done this because they fear what humans might become. Lies! Kreshtor shouted. This being is malfunctioning. Its memory has been corrupted by— I have the access codes, Veron said quietly. I have the original archivist programming. And I have recorded testimony from Velcrim technicians who worked on the reprogramming. Dr. Park, if you would display the evidence. Minho stepped forward with his tablet. The assembly's display screens lit up with data. For the next 3 hours, humanity saw the truth. Communications between Velcrim officials discussing the human problem. Technical specifications for the limiter device and how it was reprogrammed. Simulation data showing the projected extinction timeline for humanity. And most damning of all, recorded conversations between Velcrim engineers. One conversation was particularly devastating. 2. Velcrim engineers discussed whether they should feel guilt for what they were doing. One argued that humanity's rapid advancement made them too dangerous. The other agreed, saying that if the positions were reversed, humans would probably do the same to the Velcrim. Taman felt sick listening to it. Was that true? Would humanity have done the same thing? He wanted to believe the answer was no. But he was not sure. The evidence was undeniable. By the end of the presentation, even the most pro-Velcrim representatives in the assembly looked shaken. Secretary General Unji called for a short break. When they reconvened, the Velcrim section was empty. Every single Velcrim delegate had fled during the break. They had boarded their ships and left Earth's orbit. Their departure speaks clearly, Unji said. However, we still face a crisis. According to Veron's testimony, the limiter device is already traveling toward our solar system. We have less than 5 months to stop it. The question is simple. How do we respond? The debate that followed showed the best and worst of humanity. Some representatives wanted immediate war. They argued for launching attacks on Velcrim colonies, destroying their infrastructure, making them pay for what they had done. Others wanted to focus on evacuation. They proposed building ships to carry as many humans as possible to distant, uncharted regions of space, abandoning Earth to save what they could of the species. A few even suggested surrender. They argued that fighting would make things worse, that maybe humanity could negotiate with the Velcrim for mercy. Then a young woman stood up. Her name was Junho. She represented the Mars colonies and worked as an engineer on terraforming projects. She looked nervous, speaking in front of so many important people, but her voice was steady. We do not fight the Velcrim. We do not run. We do what humans do best. We innovate. The assembly waited for her to continue. Veron said the limiter was designed by the archivists. A civilization far more advanced than either humans or Velcrim. But the archivists are extinct, which means their technology can fail. Their designs can have flaws. We have 5 months and the access codes. I say, we hack it. I want. The assembly erupted in discussion. Some thought it was impossible. Others called it insane. But many more saw the possibility in it. Veron turned to Timon. This is why I chose you, Dr. Park. Not just because you were a doctor. I chose you because when faced with pressure to harm a being you did not understand, you refused. You insisted on certainty. You valued life over convenience. That quality is what makes humanity worth saving. Over the next 4 months, humanity worked like it had never worked before. Scientists from every nation collaborated. Engineers shared designs freely. Programmers worked around the clock. Even artists contributed, helping to visualize the complex data in ways that made it easier to understand. Veron served as a consultant. The witness helped humanity understand archivist technology, but Veron was careful to only guide, not direct. This had to be humanity's solution, their innovation, their triumph or failure. Taman found himself leading a team of xenobiologists, not because he was the most qualified, but because his approach to medicine translated well to understanding alien technology. He was patient. He was careful. He valued understanding over speed. The Velcrim did not stay quiet. They launched several military strikes, trying to prevent humanity from reaching the limiter. Earth's defense fleet held them off, but barely. The battles were small compared to what war movies had prepared people for, but each one cost lives. Captain Deho was released from house arrest and given command of the mission to intercept the limiter. His reputation as the pilot who had saved Varan made him a hero to many humans. The military could not keep him grounded even if they wanted to. When the day came to leave, Taman stood at the spaceport watching the fleet prepare. Over 50 ships would make the journey. The core team would approach the limiter, while the rest provided security against Velcrim interference. Varan appeared beside him. "Are you ready, Dr. Park?" "Me? I am not going. I am a doctor, not an engineer." "You are going," Varan said, "because the being who refused to cut into a potential life should be present when humanity saves itself. You represent what is best about your species. You should witness its finest hour." The fleet launched 3 days later. Taman had never been on a military ship before. The Times, Resilience Times, was fast and efficient, designed for combat rather than comfort. But Captain Deho ran it well, and the crew respected him. The journey to the outer solar system took weeks. They traveled past Mars, past the asteroid belt, past Jupiter where this whole thing had started. The limiter was beyond Neptune, in the cold dark where few humans had ever gone. When they finally detected it, Taman understood why the archivists had frightened entire civilizations. The device was massive. It looked both organic and mechanical, like a living machine. It pulsed with energy that could erase humanity's future. Junho's team had found the vulnerability, a flaw in how the Velcrim had reprogrammed the device. If they inputted the right sequence of commands, they could trigger a cascade failure. The limiter would shut down permanently. But it required someone to physically interface with the device, to plug into its systems, and input the commands manually. And during the 18 hours it would take, that person would be exposed to radiation levels that would be fatal to humans. "I will do it," Varan said. "No," Taman said immediately. "You have already risked enough. Let us find another way." "No. No. No. There is no other way. And Dr. Park, my people were designed to withstand radiation that would kill most species instantly. I am the logical choice." Junho nodded reluctantly. "Varan is right. The radiation would kill a human in minutes. But witnesses were built to survive in extreme environments. So they suited Varan in the best protective gear humanity had. They loaded the command sequences into a portable interface. And they sent the witness out into the void. For 18 hours, humanity held its breath. Velcrim ships harassed the fleet, trying to stop the operation. Earth's ships fought them off. People died in those battles. But the fleet held the line. Taman monitored Varan's vital signs from the Times Resilience asterisk. The radiation was taking its toll, even on the witness's resilient biology. But Varan kept working. Finally, after 18 hours and 43 minutes, Junho's voice crackled over the communication system. The last command is entered. Initiating shutdown sequence. The limiter's energy field flickered, then collapsed. The massive device went dark and cold. Humanity had survived. 2 years had passed since the limiter went dark. 2 years since humanity learned it was not alone in the universe, and that some of its neighbors wanted it dead. 2 years since a doctor had refused to cut into an alien and changed the course of history. Taman stood in the observation room of the Varan Memorial Medical Center on Mars. The building was new, built specifically as the first facility dedicated to xenomedicine. Through the window, he could see the Martian landscape stretching to the horizon. The terraforming was progressing faster than anyone had predicted. In another 50 years, people would walk outside without suits. Varan stood beside him. The witness had recovered from the radiation exposure, though it had taken months of treatment. Taiman had overseen the care personally. Now Varan worked at the center, teaching doctors how to treat species that were not human. "How do you feel?" Varan asked. "Tired," Taiman admitted. "We have made so much progress, but there is so much more to learn. 3 new species have made contact since the limiter incident. They are cautious, but curious. Humanity's reputation has changed across the galaxy. You are no longer the young species that might be easily eliminated," Varan agreed. "You have proven yourselves resourceful, resilient, and principled. The galaxy will remember what happened here." "What about the Velcrim?" Varan's black eyes looked distant. "Their consortium is breaking apart. Many member species have left, disgusted by what their leaders attempted. The Velcrim themselves are facing a reckoning. Some have sought to make amends." A shuttle landed in the distance, carrying a delegation from a species called the Harmonics. They were here to discuss a mutual defense pact. Humanity was no longer alone in the universe, and more importantly, humanity was no longer feared as a threat. Instead, they were respected as survivors. "I received a message today," Taiman said. "From Veshkor." Varan turned to look at him. "The Velcrim official who brought me to your station?" "Yes. It wants to apologize. To make amends. It says it did not know the full extent of what its government was planning. Do you believe it?" Taiman was quiet for a long moment. "I do not know. Part of me wants to stay angry, to hold a grudge. But another part of me remembers my oath. To heal. To preserve life. Even lives that tried to harm me. That is the choice every species faces," Varan said. "The choice to respond to fear with more fear. Or to respond with understanding. With hope. With the stubborn belief that things can be better." Down in the medical center, doctors from Earth and Mars worked alongside the few alien doctors who had volunteered to help. They shared knowledge. They learned from each other. They built something new, together. Taiman watched them work and felt a sense of pride. This was what humanity could be. Not warriors, though they could fight when necessary. Not conquerors, though they could expand across the stars. But healers, builders, partners in the great project of life in the universe. "Varan, can I ask you something?" "Of course." "That first day, when you woke up and said my name, you said you chose me. But how did you even know who I was?" Varan's expression was hard to read. The witness's face was too alien for Taiman to interpret easily, but he thought he saw something like a smile. "I have been a witness for many centuries, Dr. Park. Part of my purpose is to identify individuals who represent the best qualities of their species. When the Velcrim placed me on that station, I was still partially conscious. I could observe. I could listen." "So you heard me refuse to cut into you?" "Yes. But more than that, I heard the reason why. You said that first. You do no harm. You said you value life. You said you needed certainty before you would act. In that moment, I knew I had found what I was looking for." "What were you looking for?" "Hope," Varan said simply. "Hope that humanity was worth saving. Hope that there were humans who valued life over convenience, over profit, over political pressure. You gave me that hope, Dr. Park. And in doing so, you gave humanity a chance." They stood together in silence for a while, watching the sunset on Mars. The sky turned shades of red and purple that did not exist on Earth. It was beautiful and alien at the same time. "What will you do now?" Taiman asked. "Now that humanity is safe, will you leave? Will you go witness other civilizations?" Varan was quiet for a long moment. "My creators designed me to observe, to record, to witness the critical moments in a civilization's development. But they never planned for me to become part of the story. You saved us. You are part of our story now." "Yes," Varan said. "And that is why I have decided to stay. Your species is still young, still learning. You will face other challenges, other crises. And while I cannot interfere too much, I can guide. I can teach. I can help you avoid the mistakes that have doomed so many others. Taman felt a warmth in his chest. Relief, perhaps, or gratitude. Thank you, Varan, for choosing us, for believing we were worth saving. Thank you, Dr. Park, for proving me right. A message came through on Taman's communicator. It was from Jiwan. She was down in surgery, working on a complicated case involving a harmonic patient who had been injured in an industrial accident. She needed his consultation. Duty calls, Taman said with a smile. As it should. You are a healer, Dr. Park. The galaxy needs more healers. Taman left the observation room and headed down to surgery. As he walked through the corridors of the medical center, he passed doctors and nurses of a dozen species. They nodded to him in greeting. Some used human gestures. Others used their own species' signs of respect. In the surgery, Jiwan had the harmonic patient stabilized. The harmonics were crystalline beings, somewhat similar to the Velcrim, but smaller, and with a different internal structure. This one had been crushed in a mining accident. Its structure was fractured in multiple places. What do we know about harmonic physiology? Taman asked. Jiwan pulled up files on the display. Not much. We have basic scans and some data from their doctors. But this is only the third harmonic we have treated. Taman studied the scans carefully. The fracture patterns looked similar to stress fractures in human bones, but the healing process would be different. Contact their doctors, ask for guidance, and run simulations based on what we learned from treating Varan. Are you sure? The harmonics are very different from witnesses. Yes, but the principles are the same. We approach carefully. We value life. We do not pretend to know more than we do. And we ask for help when we need it. The surgery took 6 hours. It was delicate work, requiring tools and techniques that had not existed 2 years ago. But they succeeded. The harmonic patient would recover fully. As Taman was cleaning up, Minho appeared in the doorway. The linguist had stayed on Mars, working on communication protocols between different species. Taman, I thought you should know. The United Earth Assembly just passed the Preservation Act. What is that? A law stating that humanity will never develop or deploy weapons designed to sterilize or eliminate other species. Even in self-defense. Even if we are threatened, we will find other ways to protect ourselves. Taman felt his throat tighten with emotion. That is a bold stance. Some people will say, we are making ourselves vulnerable. Maybe. But it is also a promise. To ourselves and to the galaxy. That we will never become what the Velcrim tried to be. That we will never let fear drive us to commit genocide. What does Varan think? I just came from talking to the witness. Varan said something interesting. It said that in all the centuries of observation, no species has ever passed such a law. Most civilizations develop weapons first, and morality later. Humanity is doing it backward. Taman laughed. That sounds about right. Humanity always does things the hard way. That night, Taman sat in his apartment, looking out at the Martian sky. Earth was visible as a small blue dot in the distance. Somewhere on that planet, billions of people were living their lives, having children, building futures, existing in ways the Velcrim had tried to prevent. His communicator chimed. It was a video call from Captain Deho. The captain was back on Earth, training the next generation of pilots. Dr. Park, I wanted to thank you. For what, Captain? For being stubborn. For refusing to cut into Varan when everyone told you to. My daughter was born 3 months ago. She exists because you valued a life you did not understand. Taman felt tears in his eyes. What is her name? Varan. We named her Varan. I hope that is okay. I think it is perfect. After the call ended, Taman sat in silence. He thought about that moment on the station, when he had first refused to cut into the alien. It had seemed like such a small thing at the time, just a doctor following his oath, just a human, trying to do the right thing. But that small choice had changed everything. It had saved Varan, which had saved humanity, which had led to new alliances, new friendships, new possibilities for what the future could hold. Maybe that was the lesson. That small choices mattered, that every decision to value life over convenience, to choose understanding over fear, to insist on certainty before causing harm, those decisions added up. They built a better world, a better universe. The next morning, Taman returned to the observation room. Varan was already there, watching the sunrise. "Good morning, Dr. Park." "Good morning, Vaughn." They stood together as the Martian sun rose over the horizon. A human doctor and an ancient witness. Two beings from different worlds, different species, different times, but connected by a simple truth. Life was worth protecting, worth fighting for, worth choosing, over and over again, no matter the cost. "What are you thinking?" Varan asked. Taman smiled. "I am thinking about a little girl on Earth named Varan. About the future she will have. About all the choices she will make. About how her life exists because we chose hope over fear." "Hope is a powerful force," Varan said. "It has saved more civilizations than weapons ever could. Is that something the archivists taught you?" "No," Varan said. "It is something you taught me. You and your stubborn, impossible, wonderful species." A new shuttle was landing. More patients arriving. More species seeking help. More opportunities to build bridges between worlds. Taman headed down to the medical bay. There was work to do. Lives to save. A universe to heal. One patient at a time. And as he walked, he knew that somewhere in the galaxy, other species were watching humanity, wondering what these strange beings would do next, how they would grow, what they would become. He hoped they would see a species that valued life, that kept its promises, that refused to let fear dictate its choices. He hoped they would see hope itself, given form and voice and stubborn determination. He hoped they would see humanity at its best. And if they saw that, maybe other species would choose hope too. Maybe the galaxy could become a place where life was protected, where understanding triumphed over fear, where the future was built on cooperation rather than competition. It was a big dream. Perhaps too big. But then again, humanity had never been good at dreaming small. Taman smiled and got to work. The universe was waiting. DS. But definitely trying to form words. And the words it formed were impossible. Min. The creature knew his name. This thing that everyone said was dead. This alien from a species humanity had only just met. It had spoken his name. Taman felt ice water run through his veins. His hands shook as he pressed the emergency call button. The alarm rang through the station. Within seconds, people would come running. Questions would be asked. Decisions would have to be made. But right now, in this moment, Taman stood frozen. He stared at the alien on the table. The creature's eyes were still closed. Its body still looked dead. But it had spoken. It had said his name. And somehow, that changed everything.